The Morning Sports Desk, available on demand on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, and WDenaRadio.com.
It is the Morning Sports Desk on a Tuesday, the 15th of October. I'm CJ Baumgartner, Corey Tackman joining me. Corey, a lot going on in our region. We are wrapping up the fall sports season for the regular season as we approach playoff time. Here we go. Like it's gonna start getting pretty fast and furious before we know it.
Tonight is the final night of conference play for pretty much everybody in the state, and it most certainly is true for the Park Region Conference. And why does that matter? Well, that's because we've got Park Region Conference volleyball on the broadcast schedule tonight. Yeah,
and in a game, Corey, that will decide the top of the Park Region Conference. Wadena Deer Creek hosting New York Mills. We have it on 101.7 FM and AM920 KWAD. You can also listen to it live online at WDenaRadio.com/KWAD. Wadena Deer Creek coming into this game is 15-7 overall. New York Mills is 17-7, but that doesn't matter. We're looking at the Park Region Conference record. Wadena Deer Creek 6-0 coming into this one in the PRC. New York Mills 5-1. Now, Sebeka is also 5-1 in the PRC, but their one conference loss was to New York Mills. So if Wadena Deer Creek, who beats Sebeka, wins tonight, if Wadena wins, they're 7-0. They win the conference, right? If Wadena Deer Creek loses, then we have a three-way tie. You've heard of Park Region Conference champions, but if it's three different Park Region Conference champions, do they all get to be co? Like,
indeed.
So co, like two co's.
Correct.
So it'd be a little cuckoo for Coco champs at the top of the Park Region Conference standings.
Exactly correct.
Exactly. All right. The chaos theory part of my brain is kind of hoping for that. Just as like, wouldn't that be just kind of like I mean this in a good way, like a weird little stat, like a trivia question 10 years from now, and you're like, in 2024, the Park Region Conference had 3 champions in volleyball. Who were they?
Yep.
That'd be
it also has the chance to be one of the funniest t-shirts ever made. Just how many co's can you put on there? And by the way, if that ends up being the case, I think you'd be willing to throw out your cuckoo for Coco champions as a t-shirt idea, right?
Oh, print the shirts. Let's call Grimans in.
I mean, maybe we need to do that for our area teams. Is put out a cuckoo for Coco champions PRC volleyball.
I should get a graphic made up just in case, so that way if it happens, we can just.
That's a good idea.
Look at me making more work for myself. It's going to be a good one tonight. Obviously, both these teams well coached. They've been around forever. Obviously, with Wadena Deer Creek, they've started to hit their stride, Corey. I know we talked a little bit in the middle of the season that they kind of were in a bit of a, for lack of a better term, I think just a rut. And since they lost to Holly in 4 sets on September 24th, they have not lost a game. Now, they've played a lot of Park Region Conference games. They beat Bertha Hewitt. They beat Park Rapids area. They beat Barnesville. They beat Henning. They beat Verndale. They've rattled off 5 wins in a row. And in those 5 wins, you had a 5-setter against Park Rapids area and Barnesville, but those are section matchups, and you won both of those. You took care of business in the Park Region Conference. And I know you've seen them recently too, Corey. It does feel like from a month ago to now that there's just a different energy with this Wadena Deer Creek volleyball team. It feels like whatever shuffling Coach Volkman needed to do, it feels like they've kind of found it, right?
Well, and she said as much in this past weekend's Wolverine Weekly. Like, we've settled into our rotation a little bit more. We all know with Sue that it can also change in a heartbeat as well. Like, that is the one of the things that I appreciate about her approach is that if you're on the varsity, it's because she expects you to be able to play. So when your number is called, you better be ready to play. And if you're not ready to play, she'll find the next one who is. And if you're not either, it's to the back of the line if you're not ready. And but it feels like she said, that it started to settle in a little bit more. Park Region Conference for Wadena Deer Creek a little easier, lighter on the schedule than playing those section teams. Those section teams in Barnesville, in Park Rapids area, are also playing other 2A schools, so they're just a little more battle-tested probably than Wadena Deer Creek is during their conference portion of the schedule. But sometimes building confidence is just as important, and it's not like they've lollygagged around in some of those other conference matchups, right? They've kind of just done what they're supposed to do. And, I mean, it's got to happen, right? This is the final night of regular season stuff. And then there's a tournament that everybody's going to go to Thursday and or Friday and or Saturday. But this is it. This is where all the marbles kind of, you got to put everything on the table now. Any other cliches I need to throw out there?
No, I think you got a regular season home finale for Wadena Deer Creek. It looks like they are going to get a home playoff game. So not quite the last time they'll play on the WDC court for this volleyball season. They are currently third in Section 8AA. Dilworth Glidden Felton has a slight edge over Holly with a 139.8 QRF. Holly 134.5. Wadena Deer Creek 118.8. East Grand Forks is behind them at 112.4, but Wadena Deer Creek has beat East Grand Forks once in regular season play and once in tournament play. So they have a couple wins over the Green Wave to basically keep them, for lack of a better term, at bay for now. The Green Wave is held at bay for now. Wadena Deer Creek is locked in. Talking with Coach Volkman, she said, I was like, are you pretty much locked in? You feel like you are where you are? She's like, well, they could change depending on how the tournament goes in Moorhead this weekend. And she kind of talked about it. And then she went, but also probably not. We're probably locked into that spot that we're in. Never say never, but it looks like they are going to be that 3 seed coming into section play. Moving on to New York Mills, by the way, they're having a great season as well.
If they win the tournament, things could change for them.
Right.
I mean, if you go through Spring Lake Park and Wilmer and Moorhead and you win the tournament, then yeah.
Felton.
Right. Then things probably could change.
If you're playing, Nevis and no disrespect to the Tigers, but just an A school and, a couple other teams like
beating Class A schools, it's not happening for you. But if you're not
like a Proctor, maybe Roseville,
yes, of course. If you're beating 3A schools, 4A schools, then yeah, we're talking about up a little bit.
Right. Yeah, there's some stuff there. For New York Mills, they're having a great season, 17-7 overall. They're 8-3 in Section 6A. If you look at New York Mills in Section 6A, they also are kind of nestled into that 3 seed. There maybe is a little give and take, but I think pretty much they're kind of set where they're at in Section 6A in the North subsection. And they've once again been on a bit of a run. They played a Breckenridge team that is solid in Section 6A. They lost to them on September 28th in a tournament in Barnesville. But since then, they've rattled off 6 straight wins over Lake Park Ottoman, Brandon Evansville, Parker's Prairie. That's a nice win in that section. So, they've gotten some wins over some AA schools in Pillager and Monaga to kind of help boost their QRF up to 83.5. For New York Mills, again, as we talked about, they're in that 3 seed right now, and they're pretty set. Underwood is behind them, but looking through their regular season schedule, they did not have a game against Underwood, so there's no head-to-head. So it looks like New York Mills is going to take that 3 seed. Things could change, but it looks like that's kind of where they're at in Section 6A North subsection. Breckenridge obviously is the leader in that subsection with a 120 QRF. Hillcrest Lutheran Academy is 109 even, and then New York Mills at 83.5. Underwood 78.7. Ayla Olson, obviously that whole team runs through her and the things that she can do and is really successful at them, Corey. I think we've both seen enough New York Mills games over the last few years to know that that team runs through her and she can do a lot of different stuff, whether it's setting, whether it's attacking, whether it's just that, whatever it is, she can do a lot.
Well, I saw New York Mills earlier in the season and I asked her head coach and mother, Tammy Olson, Ayla, got any plans? She going to play any college volleyball anywhere? We didn't know the answer to that question yet. or we're coy with the correct with the real answer, but would be that is a thing that would be fun for you to ask tonight when you see that game, to see if there's any plans down the line. Older siblings of Ayla are playing college sports, and I know that's something that she wants to do. And I say all of that to say that's how good she is. She's a college volleyball player in her very near future. She's the real deal.
Kyle Gelsine at the radio station here sent me this picture a couple weeks ago, and I can't remember off the top of my head what the name is of the New York Mills paper, but he took a little screen grab of their article, and that Olsen is 1,000. She has 1,000 career digs, 1,000 career kills, and 1,000 set assists. It's not something that happens very often. So just
that's a triple quadruple.
Yeah, a triple quadruple.
Is that what you put that on a t-shirt? We got t-shirt ideas all over the place.
What? Come on.
She's a quadruple machine.
Corey is going to be getting the merch store set up for the Superstation at any moment.
Eat your heart out, Russell Westbrook.
You can listen tonight, 7 o'clock pregame, 7:15 first serve on 101.7 FM or AM920 KWAD. Also online at WDENAradio.com/KWAD.
Who did Charles Barkley call a triple single? Do you remember who that was?
Oh, no, I don't.
When he just murdered whoever that was.
I do not. Was it for like the Celtics or something?
Got himself a triple single.
My favorite in the NBA is when a guy doesn't score any points and they just basically say he did cardio today.
Oh,
nice. All he did is just run up and down the court for an hour. Like, how did he do today? Nah, he just did cardio. He was just running. Okay. A couple things we need to get to. First, let's talk high school football. Wadena Deer Creek made the announcement yesterday, Corey. And this comes from the WDC Football Facebook page. And it's a statement from the team. And what it says here is from head coach Kyle Petermeyer. He said, "I would like to thank you for your time, commitment, and support of WDC football. Without the families, nothing we do would be possible. Myself, our coaches, and our administration has made a tough decision to forego the rest of the varsity game schedule. I wanted to send out a letter so you can hear the correct details and everything that went through this tough, impossible, but necessary decision." And you can find it on Facebook, and we shared it on the KWAD Facebook page. Talks about the safety of the kids and just making sure that there are enough bodies that are mature enough to play varsity football, because they had a tough matchup against a very, very good Staples-Motley team tomorrow night. And they likely would have had to play them again in the playoffs. They would have had a matchup with Monaga, whether that was in Wadena or Monaga, it doesn't really matter. If they would have won that game, they would have had to play Staples-Motley again. Or again, you send a bunch of freshmen up against a team in Monaga that has some seniors and some stuff like that. So it's just an unwinnable situation, because I've talked with Coach Petermeyer all season long and for the last few years. That guy lives, breathes, does everything football. And this, he said it in the letter, but man, that's not an easy call for him to make, to have to do that.
No, it's really hard and the right choice. I've said this before. You and I have had this discussion many times. There's more teams throughout the entire state that need to make decisions like this, I think, more often. Football is one of the rare sports where an injury is likely. It's possible in every sport. It's likely in this sport, especially when you're talking about kids who don't have the driver's licenses yet going up against kids who've been driving for multiple years. And that is the scenario that was starting to be laid out. We know coming into the season, the margins were pretty thin for Wadena Deer Creek as far as their numbers went anyway. If you read that letter further, Coach Petermeyer talks about how we knew that we would be okay. Our kids did an unbelievable job of getting ready and preparing themselves physically for the upcoming football season. But the margins were thin, and there didn't need to be a lot of injuries for this scenario to rear its ugly head, and there haven't been a lot of injuries. They've just been significant. There's been enough of them that this was the right choice. It's obviously hard and very heartbreaking. And every single one of those boys, I'm sure, if you were to give them an anonymous poll, would say, yeah, let's play. This is football. It's beat into your head that you're supposed to tough this sort of situation out. And I like that in the opportunity, there were some adults in the room to make an adult decision and know that in the long term, it is going to be best for those kids. It's October 15th. There's basketball and hockey and wrestling. There's baseball and track and golf. There's a whole year of opportunities and experiences for these kids that still need to be had. And this is what high school is all about. And you don't want to risk ripping some of those other experiences away because you wanted to them to have an experience of probably getting boat raced and injured against somebody else. It's the right decision. And one more thing I want to mention, you had the screen grab up of the letter, and then there was the Facebook post. One of the things I liked is that it showed the comment there from Ed Sugg. Ed, a former assistant at Wadena Deer Creek for a couple of years. So for him to even chime in from Montana or wherever he is now and just be like, you're in a good spot. That's the right decision. Good job. I like the family cohesiveness too that is built from this, because it's not an easy. Could you imagine, CJ, you're in high school and your coach walks in and says, we need to be done?
Right.
You're gonna take it personally.
It's not going to feel good.
No, you're going to understand. You're going to come around to it. You probably already know too that you were going to get beat up. Like, it's not like you have been, it's not like they're 6-0, 7-0 coming into this, right? They knew that it was going to be a tough road anyway. And maybe there's a little sigh of relief, but also you're like, come on, man, what are we out here for? Right. So for the adults in the room to make the adult decision, I commend them completely.
Right. And I will say all the other comments on the Facebook post were all the same, in the same vein of like, we get it. Like, thank you for making that decision. Because like you talked about, the kids aren't going to willingly take opportunities away from themselves. And maybe in some of their heart of hearts, they're like, look, it would have been a daunting task, but like you talked about, it's just what you do. We'll do it. We'll step up. But you talk about injuries, and they were thin, but it's also injuries at key positions. Drew Lawrence was the senior starting quarterback, gotten into a little groove as the season went along. He had a season-ending injury. That's rough. Leo Petrowski comes in as the backup quarterback. He's a sophomore. It's not ideal to have a sophomore starting quarterback unless they're ready. And he got thrown into the fire, did an admirable job. He did what he needed to do, and he got hurt in that Breckenridge game. And, Wadena Deer Creek tried to find a couple different guys to maybe fill in at quarterback, but ultimately they needed somebody who knew the offense from a quarterback perspective, and it was a freshman. And I think that freshman, obviously he did an admirable job. He did what he was supposed to do. He came in, but look, you're on your third quarterback, and that's not the one sole thing. I'm not trying to say that, but it's just a microcosm of like, we need to make sure we're putting kids in a position to succeed, and we're not putting them in a position to succeed if we're taking them and when they're not ready and going to get beat up, because you don't learn much from that other than you don't learn anything from it. You don't.
To fall over and take a hit.
I had a coach one time in a different sport, and he said this to a team generally, but it always stuck with me. He said, I don't want to he's like, some of you may have, wondered, hey, how come I didn't play as much as I thought I would, or how come I didn't get here or there, whatever. And he said, I don't want to put anybody in a position to fail. That's my job as a coach. And I think that's the job of the coaching staff for the Wolverines. It's not that they would have utterly failed. Like, I think Wadena Deer Creek has done a good job given their circumstances. They've showed up ready. I've talked with Coach Fiemeyer all season. There's never been a question of effort. Like, they've given their all. They've put their heart and soul into this team. But it says the coaching staff, we're not setting our kids up for success in this situation, and let's set them up for a position of success in another sport they're going to play, or for next year. Let's be able to take this group of kids now, give them those 2 games off, let them make sure that they're healed up, and get them ready for next football season and start to get in that spot where everybody's another year older, and you get another class of freshmen, and you get to help out. This is a long-winded way of saying I think everybody, it's not fun. It's not fun, but you just got to do it. And I commend the coaching staff for doing that, and the administration in the school. So we will have a change to the broadcast schedule. You can find that at WDenaRadio.com. We will have a couple more games because Staples-Motley obviously doesn't have a game. Tyler's still on to do another game across central Minnesota. I'll be doing a game tomorrow night. We'll have the full details on WDenaRadio.com, so go check that out by the time you're listening to that. Corey, let's talk tennis now and move on to a subject where we got a few girls that are going to the state tennis tournament in our region. Why don't we start off talking about Staples, who the team as a whole finished second in the section, but they did still send somebody to state.
Yeah, Ronnie Noska is going back to the state tournament for the second year in a row. Obviously, going last year. I can't remember the specifics. She went last year, but I believe that she was paired up with Lauren Rutten, and they went as a doubles team a year ago, if I'm remembering that correctly. Lauren, a pretty successful singles career. She's playing at Bemidji State this fall and spring or whatever. Good tennis player. So Ronnie is like the next one in a long line of pretty good tennis players coming out of that Staples-Motley program. And I want to say that as someone who, tries to pay attention to high school sports as much as I can, but also as the husband of someone who was a longtime number one singles player in the Staples-Motley Cardinal program. We follow that fairly closely at our house. Ronnie's mom played on the same team as my wife. They played tennis together. The head coach is Coach Paskowitz. That's my wife's cousin. Like, we've got some
family affair.
There's some ties going on in that Staples-Motley Cardinal tennis program. And like I said, Ronnie's just in this line, and she's still is an underclassman. I believe she's just a sophomore now this year. And she's very, very good. She finishes second in the section. Top two teams go. So she's off representing the Staples-Motley Cardinals again this year at the state tennis tournament. And then we've got section champions on the doubles side also, CJ.
Yeah. For Wadena Deer Creek, the combination of Kaylee Endres and Anna Fiemeyer are going. They won their section, and they get to go on to the doubles. And, that was a duo that has had success all season long. They've pretty much stayed intact for most of the season. They've kept that pairing up from what I remember talking with Coach Jill Fiemeyer and Coach Lindy Thompson, the two co-head coaches for Wadena Deer Creek girls tennis. And that's something that I know when the Fiemeyer sisters were as a duo that they've had some success. And for now, Kaylee Endres to hop in with that duo with Anna Fiemeyer, and they've had a great season. And for them to cap it off and get to the state tournament is a really, really cool thing. And that's going to be, talking with them, they were our Wolverine Player Spotlight, our very first one at the beginning of the school year. And those two it felt like even then had a really good chemistry with each other, and it's just grown throughout the season. And that'll be exciting. So congratulations to them. And we have a couple different representatives from our region going to the state tennis tournament, Corey, which will take place on October 22nd through the 25th. The team tournament will be on the 22nd and the 23rd. The 24th and the 25th, a Thursday, Friday, is when the singles and doubles will take place concurrently throughout everything. Class A state tennis will take place at the Reed Sweat Tennis Center in Minneapolis. The Baseline Tennis Center is where Class 2A is going for that one. Reed Sweat Tennis Center in Minneapolis, is that at a college somewhere, Corey? Or is that just somewhere?
Never been.
I'll Google it.
Know where it was. If you dropped me off at US Bank Stadium and said, find it, I would get lost. I would just pick a direction. I have no idea. It
looks like it's just a community tennis court in Minneapolis. There's no, from what I can understand by this quick Google search, that it is a part of inner city tennis. So it's just a tennis court in the middle of Minneapolis that they can use and they can go with. So cool. That'll be a fun spot for them. And obviously those girls would play anywhere because it gets to be state. So they are ready to go for that one. All right. Let's talk a little state sports as we finish things up, Corey. This is just a more of a note. It's more of a comment, really, about Minnesota Twins. They've hired their new hitting coach over yesterday. It was reported. I don't think the team has officially announced the name, but they've hired Matt Borgschulte to be hired as the new Twins hitting coach. He was with the team up until 2021 and was hired away to go be Baltimore's one of Baltimore's assistant hitting coaches. He was the hitting coach for the Saints at the time in St. Paul, and the Twins get him back to now be the lead hitting coach. There'll still be a couple assistant hitting coaches announced underneath him, but this feels like the Twins had some familiarity with him. The timing wasn't right. He took another opportunity, but very clearly, I think based off reading articles and reports, that the Twins really did like the guy and they wanted to keep him in the organization. He just saw an opportunity, and now the Twins can offer him a promotion here in Minnesota, and he came back to take that.
Welcome back, dude. You've got your work cut out for you.
You got your work cut out for you, indeed. Looking at MLB.com for Do-Hyung Park, he talked about it here. It's the first move that has been made. He's 33 years old. He's been in the Twins organization from 2018 to 2021 as the AAA hitting coach in St. Paul. The Orioles lineup, by the way, that's a team that knows how to hit. So he's definitely seen some success there. It doesn't necessarily feel like, because if he's been on the Twins staff before, that there's not going to be any, and I don't think we expected this, there's not a big wholesale approach to what the Twins are going to change. It's, all right, we need to change the voice. We need to change the guy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not
this entire roster. Most of this roster was in AAA 3 years ago.
Right. We're going to bring in a guy who's familiar with the guys we have now. We're going to bring in somebody who's just a different voice to tell you the same stuff, but we think he'll be better communicating it. We think he can just overall be effective in getting that done. At least that's the hope. Nobody was really expecting the Twins to, like, I don't know, hire Joe Vavra or something like that and roll with that. But you never know. So more moves to come. The club has not confirmed that. Corey, you have a Vikings note we want to end the show on. What's up?
The top 4 teams in point differential in the NFL are all in the NFC North. Vikings are the number 1 team in the NFL. They're like plus 63, I think. Detroit are they 1, 2? They're right there. Green Bay is the worst, I think, in the NFC North as far as point differential goes.
In air quotes, yeah.
But they're like plus 42. And they're the top 4 teams in the entire NFL. The NFC North is freaking stacked.
This is the first time, Corey, ever since they added an extra division. So about, in the last 30-ish years, this is the first time ever that in the 4-division era of football, of the NFL, that through the first 6 weeks, all 4 teams in the division have at least 4 wins.
Right. There's never been a last place 4-win team in the division.
Right. Through 6 weeks.
Correct.
Like that.
Easily through the whole season. This through 6 weeks, there's a 4-win team that's last in the division. It's insane.
It's insane. And the Vikings are in the mix of it. Of course, there's a lot of course, the one time the Vikings are good, everybody else is good. You knew this division was going to be good coming in. You knew it was going to be a dogfight. So I don't think we should be surprised by the fact it's disappointing that it looks like the Bears have a quarterback. It's disappointing that the Lions don't look like a one-hit wonder. It's disappointing that Jordan Love looks like he's kind of figured it out and maybe the second coming of Brett Favre, but without the welfare scandals at the moment.
But the surprise here is not everybody else. The surprise is the Vikings. The Vikings upsetting the apple cart here. So, yeah, if anybody's like, of course, the one time the Vikings are good, so is everyone else. Like, no, that everyone else should be saying that.
If you're the Bears, you're like, of course we finally got a quarterback, and the Vikings all of a sudden have Sam Darnold and are 5-0.
Vikings fans have no right to say that. Everyone else in the division needs to be saying that about the Vikings this year. And you know what? As a Vikings fan, it's awesome.
It's awesome.
Screw you, Caleb Williams.
And here's the thing. You want to be in a good division. How many years does the NFC East have a horrible division like they kind of do this year? And whoever walks into the playoffs is just not good. They walk in, they get a home playoff game, the media gives them flowers, and then they get sent right back home. Washington may be good with Jaden Daniels. I'll give them that. But like the Cowboys are falling apart at the seams. The Eagles maybe will grind into the postseason, but their head coach is getting canned.
He shaved his head. He went Britney Spears. Next thing you know, he's going to be showing his crotch getting out of a limo, and we know it's over for him. It's bad. The NFC. I saw an interview with Scott Van Pelt the other day, and he goes, I want everyone to know this. And yes, I grew up in the Baltimore area. I'm like, I need everyone, but everyone needs to know. I'm just over this. Like, we got to do this about Dallas. We have to do it. They're very popular. We have to. That's just how the business goes. I'm not saying we can't have good business, but we talk about them and we talk about them, and then we show them, and then they lose. And then we talk about them, and then we talk about them, and then we talk about them, and then we show them because it's the playoffs, and then they lose. It's just every year. He's like, I just want everyone to know that this is how it works.
I think he probably had a come to Jesus meeting with somebody in the ESPN room after that. There's probably a producer or an executive that's like, what are you doing? But I mean, he's right. He's 100% right. They have been overrated for years on end. And every time it ends with them getting disappointed in the playoffs, because it's not that they were bad. There have not been a lot of bad Dallas teams, but there certainly have not been a lot of great Dallas teams over the last 10 years. But if you watch Get Up on ESPN every morning, you'd think that the Cowboys are the Patriots with how often they're on the radar.
And it's fine. I've grown beyond the like. They have to talk about them.
They're a big media market. There's a lot of people who will listen.
Right. Well, CJ, you and I could talk about the Twins and the Vikings all day until we're blue in the face. But we also work in central Minnesota, and we need to talk about the kids who went to state tennis. Right? We just have to do it. And we want to do it, but we have to, like, it's this perfect combination of things we want and have to do. ESPN has to talk about Dallas. They'd be stupid not to. It's not their fault that most of the people in the country, like Dallas Mavericks, Dallas Cowboys, incorporate a huge NFL number. That's not their fault. It's the idiot Dallas. Like, why are there that many Cowboys fans? You guys have stunk for 3 decades. How are there that many of you around?
You ever see that clip with Kyler Murray, who they asked him, like, were you a Cowboys fan growing up? He's like, no, the Cowboys were awful growing up. And then it made everybody go, wait, the Cowboys were winning Super Bowls with Troy Aikman when Kyler Murray was. And then they did math and they go, oh no, that was the Tony Romo years. Like,
yeah, Tony Romo had some.
They weren't bad. But they're not they have not won.
Born after the year was he born? 2000? Is he post 9/11 birth? Is he born?
No, Kyler Murray was born in probably the mid 90s. But he probably was born after the Cowboys won their last Super Bowl.
How old is Kyler Murray?
Kyler Murray has got to be born at like 96?
No way. He's not 30 years old. It's 2024.
Kyler Murray was born on August 7th of 1997.
97. Yeah, he's right. So he has no recollection at all.
No.
It's totally disrespectful to Tony Romo, because some of those Tony Romo teams were awesome.
They were, but they were not a dynasty.
That's the last time they have actually been relevant. Like Romo, that's Romo's grift, right? Is that he blew it. The teams now in Dallas aren't blowing it. They stink.
They're just not that good. They're not bad. They're not good. Like, they're mediocre in a bad division. And they kind of ride the coattails of a good defense.
NFL purgatory. Congratulations. You're at 7-9 wins again.
In salary cap hack, by the way, because they've signed every star player they have to boatload contracts.
At least Jerry Jones isn't threatening to fire radio guys for asking questions about what's going on. Oh, wait. No, he's doing that.
One last thing, and this is just, again, more of a comment. There's not really much to break down. I think Dante DiVincenzo is already a fan favorite to be one of the fan favorites for the Timberwolves this year. And I'll give you two reasons. And then I've said my piece. One, he's white. Two, he hates Tibbs with a fiery passion. And he endears himself to this fan base now.
So I saw a breakdown of that, and he definitely was talking to Tibbs during that free throw. But then there's like a Zapruder film, a breaking down of whom he might actually. So he starts by talking to Tibbs, but then he looks down the line a little bit and he starts chewing out Brunson,
Rick Brunson,
Mr. Brunson,
former assistant coach.
Correct. He starts ripping him to shreds, and that's what you get when you start running this team. And then those two were nose to nose at post-game dap-up time.
A preseason game, by the way.
Yeah, no, I had a lot. I am all in is too strong because the Wolves could very likely have a worse record this year than last year.
Right.
I think they're going to be good. I think this is in all, they're going to be a better team when it's said and done.
Remember how we talked about the Vikings at the beginning of this season? And we said this Vikings team might have a worse record than the year before, but they're a better team. And like, we need to acknowledge that coming in. Now they're 5-0. So that conversation is gone. They're going to have a better record than the year before. But I think this Timberwolves team is the same way I think they're deeper. You know, the high end talent isn't obviously not as high because Cat's gone, but like deeper.
It's a discredit to Randall. Randall's really good.
They're deeper than they were a year ago. And they might finish with a worse record, but that's not an indictment of how the Wolves put this roster together for this season. I think that's the way to look at it.
If it doesn't, well, there's lots of reasons it could succeed. The thing that they potentially missed on is it's clear they don't think the West runs through Denver anymore because they got rid of the guy who had success against Jokic. But they think everything else in Denver's kind of falling apart.
Right.
And they probably think it runs through OKC. And guess what? Gobert can guard Hardenstein. Nas can go, like, the Wolves are still really big. Randall's still really big.
Oklahoma City made moves to compete with, I know Denver's in the mix too, but to compete with the Wolves.
Correct.
By getting Hardenstein.
Yes. And the Timberwolves got a little fleeter of foot. And they struggled with that against Dallas. And, of course, everyone in Dallas thinks the West runs through them, as they should think that, considering they won the West a year ago. So this is all it might take until Christmas again to get their sea legs underneath them. Timberwolves team's going to be good.
They're going to be good. So that'll be fun. This has been the Morning Sports Desk for Tuesday, the 15th of October.
The Morning Sports Desk, available on demand on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, and WDCRadio.com.